Good afternoon. I'm Suki Pet, and you're listening to Now What on River West Radio, WXRWLP Milwaukee 104.1 FM, where the world experiences River West. Wow. Happy Friday. Uh, it's warmer today. It's 40s, 50s, something. I didn't need a jacket, so that's always a good sign, and something is coming up in my garden. I think it's the rock garden iris, the dwarf iris. No buds, nowhere near that, just leaves, but it's a hopeful sight. After this very long winter of our discontent. Now, as per usual, um, I have, no plan, no advanced plan for this show. Yeah, it's been a week, hasn't it? Sometimes do you ever feel like you're sort of a little bit numb from the overwhelm? Like you're so overwhelmed with the overwhelm that you're just numb and you can't feel overwhelmed. And then you just, if you're like me, then you just like don't sleep well and, eat too many cookies or something like that. Yeah. So I'm going to try to freestyle it today and hope that it's interesting. Um, I promise not to tell as many lies as the President of the United States did in his endless State of the Union speech on Tuesday evening. I did not watch it. I was one of the many who made that mental health decision, and instead I watched the alternative State of the Swamp as well as some of Rick Wilson's State of Delusion, which was a live, accompaniment to the State of the Union. And that was kind of like watching the late great show, Mystery Science Theater 3000, where they have Mike and the robots sitting around commenting on a really bad movie. And so Rick Wilson's live accompaniment with his wife and his son and some other people back and forth. That was a lot of fun to watch. And now we only have 27 more minutes to go of me talking to you like this. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. And, it's just like, and it's purposeful. It's so much that where do you even start? Where do you even start? Cynical attitudes aside, I keep in close contact with my elected officials because I think it's important that they need to know that we are engaged and that we see what they do or what they don't do or what they say or what they don't say. And sometimes I hesitate to call because there are so many things happening all at once, everything, everywhere, all at once, all the time, 367 days a year, 28 hours a day, that you don't know what to say. Like you want to tell them that all of the Epstein files should be released, but you also want to tell them that we shouldn't have a secret police in this country killing people. You want to tell them to continue to stand strong and, no more funding for ICE or DHS unless they agree to certain very reasonable restrictions. And you also want to tell them that we don't really want to get into war with Iran, Cuba, Nigeria, Yemen, Sudan, or any of the other places that he's talking about getting into wars out of one side of his mouth, while he's telling us that he should have won the Nobel Peace Prize and because he stopped 8 wars. I mean, I don't know about you, but I vacillate between the cruelty and the stupid. They're both exhausting. They're all exhausting. Like people talk about how if we win in November in the midterms, and then if we win again for the presidential in 2 years, how much rebuilding we're going to have to do and how it may take decades. Some of us may not have decades left on this earth, but the times have found us. We're here now, and that's just sort of the way it is. But it's hard to not let other things in life get crowded out by this nonsense, by this mess. And sometimes I find that things that normally make me really, really happy, like going into the plant tent and seeing like these tiny little sprouts or not so tiny little sprouts coming up, and it's hope, and it's spring, and it's green, and it's reminding me of the much bigger cycle of life and rebirth and death that we're all part of, that is all so much bigger than any one of us. And that cheers me, because it reminds me that I am a very small part in a very much larger ancient cycle. But sometimes those things don't thrill as much as they have in the past, just because I guess living in the times we're living in, we have to get a little bit numb just to survive. Because one of the weird things about this time we're living in is, we see how much our country has devolved and how quickly. I mean, Donald Trump has been back in office just a little over a year, like 13 and a half months, and how much closer we are to a fascist dictatorship than I think we thought we could ever be, but here we are. And yet, some of the time, what throws me off a lot is how normal things feel. And I don't mean normal in politics, because they're not. Although we have kind of gotten to a point where, we just kind of sneer and say, oh yeah, the Republicans are doing what they do. They're being stupid and lying, or whatever it is. But my mind is just going blank for a second here. But at the end of it, life is still going on, and you still have to pay rent and do laundry and make dinner and fight with your spouse and make up with your spouse and, get the bathroom fixed. I mean, I guess in one way, have you ever seen pictures of like apartment buildings and stuff from the USSR before the Soviet Union fell? You see a lot of black and white pictures in Russia and in Eastern Bloc states where everything looks sort of grainy and gray and concrete and bleak. And, I remember going out in my garden last spring and last summer, really, and looking at my beautiful Lumiere hot pink gladioli and thinking, how can all these colors exist in a dictatorship? How can all this beauty exist in a dictatorship? How does that make sense? How can I want to buy a new lipstick or a pair of earrings or something, that sort of screams of frivolity and maybe better times in a dictatorship? And yet, I do. I mean, it's this weird duality of being extremely politically aware and invested and trying to figure out, even when you're not consciously thinking about figuring it out, what do I need to do now? What can I do? Why am I not doing more? What more can I be doing? Um, you know, when you're not overwhelmed with that, you're still living your life, And then I think about people living in Ukraine who are managing during a war, who have managed over the past 4 years this horrible war has gone on, to celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah and Passover and birthdays and births. And I just keep thinking of candles and all of that light in all of that darkness, and how their courage, their individual courage and their collective courage to just carry on and live like the most normally that they can under these terrible circumstances, and think, what do I have to complain about? Not much, really, but and I think that's part of the problem, is that things cost a lot more. Inflation is real. Affordability is hard, no matter what the occupant of the Oval Office says about it being a word that somebody, quote, gave to the Democrats. Clearly, the man has never read a dictionary. I don't even know if he can or knows what one is. But, yeah. So, those things are real. But the other things are real, too. And it's a very jarring side by side. It's like, I remember, like, it's like when someone you're close to and someone you love very much dies, then, like, the first time you laugh, or at least this happened for me, the first time you laugh after they've died, like the first time you really laugh, it feels like a foreign sensation. Because when someone is so ill, and it's only a matter of time, there's a lot of tension, because depending on where you are and where they are, do you want to be with them? Is it possible for you to be with them? You want to be able to say goodbye, have that final conversation if possible. If not, just sit next to them and hold their hand and talk to them. And yet, the first time that I laughed, it felt foreign, and it almost felt like a betrayal, because it felt like, well, how can you laugh when there's this huge hole in your life and this person you love so much is dead? And you're laughing. And what's wrong with you? And what kind of a terrible human being are you to laugh under these circumstances? But sometimes that's all you can do. And sometimes it just hits you. It's like, I'm dating myself with this, but there was a Mary Tyler Moore Show episode where Chuckles the Clown died, and I don't remember the exact contours of the accident, but Chuckles was in a parade, and I don't know, it had something to do with an elephant. I don't know if an elephant knocked him over because he was eating peanuts, or Chuckles was also dressed as a giant peanut or something, but he died in a very strange way. And so there's a scene where they're at the service for Chuckles, and it's sad, and people are crying, and then you know, the crew from the TV station, Mary and Murray and Ted and, well, not so much Lou, but Mary and Murray and Ted just start laughing hysterically during the service. And Mr. Grant tries to glare at them and ends up laughing hysterically himself. And it's just sort of like, how does that humor come into these serious moments? Just like, how does that color come into all this black and white and gray? You know, what was that Leonard Cohen line about something about the cracks and that's how the light gets in? Well, he was right. That's how the light gets in and makes things grow and makes us get up in the morning. But yeah, you know, and I'm sitting here at WXRW, Milwaukee 104.1 FM. See how I work that in? I'm Suki Pet. You're listening to Now What on River West Radio. And as I said, 104.1 FM, WXRWLP Milwaukee, and riverwestradio.com on all of your streaming platforms. But for those of you who have not seen the radio station, our two main studios, A and B, sit right in the windows that face Center Street, which is both a blessing and a curse because, for one thing, you can, you know, talk about what you see going on the street in front of you. And sometimes I see friends walking down and they wave, or people with cute dogs, or someone comes in to the station and says something, or, you know, whatever. But by the same token, I thought it was going to be colder than it is. And I'm sitting in a west-facing window with the sun beating down on me in my hot sweater, and I'm ready for the air conditioning that we don't have at the station. But anyway, never mind that. So, yeah, so these are really, really strange and horrible in so many ways times that we're living in. But, there is a but. There's always a but. At the same time, all of that said, I see a lot of reason for hope. And hope doesn't mean being complacent. It doesn't mean saying, okay, you know, my work is done and I can go back to just thinking about what outfits I'm going to wear when I go out on the weekends. I sort of miss those days, you know, where you were calling up all your friends and talking about what you were going to wear and comparing outfits and maybe borrowing things. And that was like, you know, talking about what you were going to wear, thinking about what you were going to wear, going out and buying what you were going to wear if you didn't already have it, or borrowing it, or washing it, or getting it cleaned, or whatever it is you had to do with it. I miss those things. I miss the days when that was like of primary importance, you know, and not wondering, you know, if ICE was going to break down your door, or if the president was going to declare war on Truth Social at 4 o'clock in the morning, and, you know, you wouldn't know it till you heard bombs going off and saw the army in the street. So, yeah, but the reason I have hope is because of the way people are standing up for each other here in the United States, and the way people around the world are protesting what is going on in this country, and the way they, in many ways, are standing up for themselves and for us. You know, when the president was talking about, you know, seizing Greenland and making it the 250th state or whatever, some of the NATO allies were in Greenland, ready to defend it. Denmark was ready to go. And Greenland and Copenhagen saw the biggest protests they had ever seen in their history. And the endless creativity and resourcefulness and joy that I see from people across this country and around the world standing up for each other and speaking their truth, that gives me a lot of hope. We have some very good elected officials, and we have a lot of very bad elected officials, and even more than that, we have a lot of highly ineffective ones. There are some who are speaking out, yes, and speaking out and standing up. Many of them got a very slow start because I think we were all just so gobsmacked by what was happening and the pace at which it was happening, and the plan, how well the plan of having all these loyal minions in place was working. As has been said by many people, it's not an original thought or phrase. Institutions don't defend themselves, and frankly, many of these institutions were not created to take the kind of abuse they're taking. Project 2025 was evil cleverness. I mean, it's horrible, but it's a lot of it is in place and a lot of it is working. I don't think it's going to be working permanently, but it's working now. So, I don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. And really don't listen to anyone who tells you that they're lying or delusional or both. We don't know. I mean, beings could come here from the moon tonight or tomorrow. I don't think they're going to, but I can't 100% tell you that they're not. Who the hell knows what's going to happen? We don't know. And, if I have to give you one piece of political advice, which I have no place doing, but I'll give it anyway because that's never stopped me. Polls are garbage. Don't believe them. They're a snapshot in time with a small group of people. And you want to look in the fine print and see what their margin of error is, and you want to get an idea of, how big a sample study they did, et cetera, et cetera. But they talk about how a particular group of people feels about particular things at a particular moment in time. And bear in mind, too, depending on how the question is phrased, you may be getting, false negatives or false positives or whatever. But so don't listen to polls. Watch what people do. Watch what they do. Watch how the American people are reacting to things. When you start seeing things like you did after the Dobbs decision, when Roe v. Wade was struck down in 2022, you started seeing ballot initiatives in bright red conservative states like Kansas about abortion. And those ballot initiatives got there because people went out and got enough signatures to get it onto the ballot. You started seeing turnout for midterm elections and off-year elections like we had not seen before. We saw it here in Wisconsin when Susan Crawford was elected to the Supreme Court here, even though Elon Musk had sunk billions of dollars into this state to try to get Schimmel elected. And at the end of the day, it didn't work. His money wasn't good here. So people, while it's people who bring me to the depths of despair, it's also people who give me a great deal of hope. And I hope that if you look around you and see what people are doing, think about what you can do. I'm always looking to do more within my personal limitations. I don't make donations to national candidates for the most part. My $5 or $10 or modest donations, such as I can make them at all, are better served either going to organizations fighting on behalf of us and democracy, like, for example, the American Civil Liberties Union, the Southern Poverty Law Center, the NAACP, or people on a very local level, like state assembly or state senate or something like that. But yeah, I hope that in this ramblings you find a little germ, a little kernel of something that will give you some maybe hope or make you laugh a little bit or something. It's not as easy to talk for half an hour by yourself as you might think, even for someone who talks a lot and who can stay on the phone, or at least used to be able to stay on the phone for hours on end. But lest I get nostalgic, let me come back and be in the present and remind you that you are listening to Now What? And I'm the host, the producer, the writer, and major domo of this show and my own little fiefdom in this show on River West Radio, WXRW, LP Milwaukee 104.1 FM, and riverwestradio.com on all of your streaming platforms. Yeah. So it is, I hope you are having a good Friday afternoon and that you have something fun planned for the weekends. I'm in the mood to go to a parade, but I don't think there are any parades this weekend. Maybe we should make one. But I appreciate being here with you on this Friday. I hope to see you next Friday at the same time, 4 p.m. to 4:29 p.m. We're very big on the exact minutes here. And once again, I'm Suki Pet. This is Now What? On River West Radio, WXRWLP Milwaukee 104.1 FM, and River West Radio on all of your streaming devices. And we will be here next week, same time, same place, same bat channel. In the meantime, have a great weekend.